is 5:01. It is 5:01 and I call this meeting to order. This is the third meeting of the ad hoc fire department bylaws meeting. For Tuesday, December 19th. I'm just reading the agenda in front of me. I don't have it printed out. But Dwayne could not be here. He's out of commission right now, but is he with us on? Okay. There'll be us four. We have quorum. Approved December 19th, 2023. And when I was just thinking, not to be too patronizing with this, but I thought I would just go ahead and read it since it's short. And since I don't have it printed, that way I could read it and then we can just say it. So this was from our last one, Wednesday, the 13th, December 13th. The meeting was called to order by Administrator Gao at 5 p.m. Roll call, all present: David, Caleb, Jason, Dustin, Scott. The committee elected the following officers: Caleb McGregor, Chair; Dustin Lease, Vice Chair; Scott Stewart, Secretary. The committee reviewed and discussed sections 1 through 6. Further review will take place during the next meeting. December 19th of this year, 5 p.m. Chair McGregor adjourned the meeting at 6:29. Can get a motion in a second to approve the minutes from last meeting as read.
Maybe I heard it wrong. Members present. What were the names again?
Dwayne,
Okay.
Caleb.
I thought you said David, but
I could have.
okay. Sorry.
Dwayne, Caleb, Jason, Dustin, Scott.
Okay.
So, make a motion to approve it. I guess second.
I'll second.
Second. Motion made by Justin, seconded by Scott. Dustin. I know names. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Minutes passed. I'm sorry, I'm kind of switching between emails here. Apologize for that. There we go. And now we're on to continue the review, amend, advise fire department bylaws draft 31 August 2023. And that is starting with section 7, which is page 10. Okay, the promotion of officers. Okay. So what I'll do is just go ahead and have us look at section 7, parts 1 and 2. How about that?
Yeah, I have a recommendation for number 2. I guess my thought process, and I'm not forming my words quite right correctly here, is I'd like to give more authority to the chief. And when I say that, I mean, any opening with officers within the officer structure will be filled internally by the current department officers that are applying for the position. That's fine. All officer candidates that apply will go through an application process conducted by, I would like to replace the department membership committee, strike that and just make it the fire chief. He's the one that produces what the process is, whatever he chooses it to be. And ultimately, then the chief submits those recommendations to the PFC for appointment. And I think you could delete the last sentence in that paragraph completely because it's, I don't think it's needed. The chief does have the option to make recommendations to the PFC without membership committee. Well, that's what the state law says. So I don't know why we have to double say.
Especially if you did take up the process conducted by the department membership committee chair. If you just did the chair, if you did just chief, then you really wouldn't need that last sentence at all.
What, and Jason, tell me if you're in opposition of that.
No.
Statement.
No, that's fine, but yeah, it's my option if I want to gather input from
And
other
I think,
places.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think by striking it, it's just because if it gets codified like this, then it'll be, well, it has to be, you know what I mean? The language isn't, there's no. It says will go, not may go, and so it becomes, it forces it to go through there and doesn't give you that option, so I think striking it. Uh, while it doesn't explicitly say your options to use it, but it does put it in there as. It has to go through that, and I think that would not be what. You have that sole authority, so.
Yeah.
So, conducted by the chief. And then submission to the PFC for appointment period, end of section. Is that my understanding?
That's what my recommendation would be, yes.
Is that? Understand that? Yes, and okay. Section, number 3.
Yeah, I got a problem with the whole, idea that you move up in rank based solely on seniority. And if an officer declines to move up, it goes down to the next new officer. It's almost implying that we have to, no matter what, we have to promote the most senior fireman to lieutenant, the most senior lieutenant to captain, and so on. When the reality is the real world doesn't work like that. Sometimes there are folks that are not as qualified as other. There may be a guy that's second in seniority as a fireman that's less time on the job than the guy that's putting in for lieutenant, that may be a better fit or a better leader or a better higher education. I don't know why we want to hand tie yourself to,
Assuming that's the way you've always done it, or the way the department's always done it, kind of move up like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you are really hand tying yourself as far as if you do have someone who's junior. That's more qualified to say go from, maybe he's a junior lieutenant. Maybe he's more qualified than the most senior lieutenant to go to captain or so on and so forth. You might be hand tying yourself with that. I mean, I get seniority doesn't always mean great stuff. I mean, we do, at the fire department, we do some. Like our second lieutenant to go to first lieutenant. That's just, filled by seniority, but any other position is, you have to go through the process of.
And what does
Well,
Rapids do? You know what?
For like a first and second lieutenant. That's just a move up, like, that's just based off whoever's been the first lieutenant or the second lieutenant the longest will fill the vacancy of first lieutenant. Now, for any of other positions, or to get even onto the list for officers, you have to go through a testing process every 2 years. And it's a different testing process depending on what position you're going for. So say like you're going for a battalion chief. That process is different than going for the lieutenant's process, because you have different roles and responsibilities in those, within those positions. I guess I don't know, Jason, are your lieutenants, do they have different role? I'm assuming they have different roles and responsibilities than your captains, or is it pretty much the same, or?
Different than the captains, yes, as far as different from each other, like first or second lieutenant, no.
Yeah, so your
Three
lieutenants are
they're all the
lieutenants,
same.
and then you have captains,
Right.
right? But their roles and responsibilities are two different,
Right,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a lieutenant that wants to go and gets further education, or is a better fit for that position over the most senior lieutenant, I don't know.
yeah, I think that paragraph might have been left over from when it was more seniority based.
thought process.
Yeah, cause right now. There's an application process and. I'm trying to figure out a way where if someone did apply for the job, but then they would decline to take it. You know, I don't know. I don't know that needs to be spelled out. Because it would be the next person who applied for the job.
So he doesn't need to be guided by anything. He has the ability to do this himself. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, I mean, he may feel some internal pressure with this paragraph staying in here to only be able to select and recommend the most senior fireman who's interested in being a lieutenant.
What if the paragraph reflected something along the lines of the most qualified candidate versus just in seniority? And I'm not quite sure how to word it, to be honest with you. It was just something that kind of popped into my head. Cause you obviously have the interview process in here.
Well, it's whatever Jason says the process is.
Yeah,
I don't know that there's an interview process. PFC doesn't interview anybody.
right.
Okay,
Yeah,
for promotion, I mean,
right, yep.
okay.
Yeah, and it's not like we have a process at Rapids that, you have to do certain scenarios and blah, blah, blah. We have a certain. thing
Sure,
that we
yeah,
have
right,
to do to
exactly.
get on that list.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you have the same kind of a thing for your officers.
And we got some requirements.
So I don't know, maybe something like that, as long as it's not hand tying you to, it has to be the most senior person,
Right,
but just, the most qualified candidate that you have to move up.
That could take several factors into place. I know that, seniority often implies quality, but, somebody could, someone younger could, be more qualified or have even more, would be the term I'm looking for, schooling, but also practical hands-on in a given year than maybe someone who's older, you know what I mean? I mean, I understand because seniority does imply that, but since each officer is not receiving the same exact number of calls that they're answering or things like that, then seniority isn't always the definitive answer to qualification. So whenever there's an opening created within the officer's rank through the interview process, current officers within this rank structure, so that's where we're getting hung up at that point.
Yeah, cause it's saying like, so like say a captain spot.
Mhm.
The most senior guy who's been a lieutenant the longest will move up into that captain role. And that might not necessarily be the best candidate out of the lieutenants, who knows?
Mhm.
It very well may be that that's the best candidate. It's hard to say, but it literally, it just hand ties you to, you have to do it this way. Versus possibly having someone, just because they've been on the department for a long time, doesn't mean they know diddly squat.
yeah,
But it also means that they might understand some other things that maybe they are the best fit. I can't answer that for you, obviously.
I think the idea that we're trying to get across here is if it's a higher ranking position, like an assistant chief, I would prefer to fill the assistant chief position with a captain. And then the captain's position with the lieutenant, that kind of thing, rather than be leapfrogging like that.
I know it maybe cause some ripples
Oh, definitely.
in the water if you were to promote a lieutenant to assistant chief.
Mhm.
He jumped a spot.
But sometimes when you go to
But
school and you
but-
better yourself, that's.
I worked-
that's the way that it
I
goes.
worked for a chief that promoted a sergeant to deputy chief, which is assistant chief. And that was jumping 2 ranks. But he felt that was the best guy.
Mhm.
I don't know. They give the chief the authority to do what
So,
you think is best,
in some ways, striking this out, in something like this, you would have to kind of pick perhaps the lesser of two evil type things. I mean, whatever, you know what I mean? In this situation, this might be the best thing, but if you wanna, if in a case this happened and you wanna just move them up sequentially, then, I mean, that I guess would be your
Yeah,
prerogative,
that
so.
would still give you the authority to do so.
So
Well,
at
you
this
could do that, Caleb, without having that
Right,
paragraph in
yeah.
there at all.
So,
That's true,
so that
yeah.
so we're just saying that this whole thing could be,
You could, I guess, I wouldn't leave it the way that it reads right now. I would, if it's gonna stay in there, which honestly, whatever you want, Jason, honestly. I would just have it reflect something along the lines of the best qualified candidate. Now,
Shall.
that still could be the most senior person
Mhm.
for you.
Sure.
You know, you could, but you'd still have the sole discretion as to who is appointed to that position.
Maybe we should just remove it,
Either way,
the-
you still have
The next chief may not feel the same way, he might
Yeah.
wanna, he or she might wanna promote however he or she wants to.
yeah,
Okay,
We can dump that one.
I think that whatever would have said, would have just reiterated your authority in that area anyway, which is, should already be outlined elsewhere. Number four, so we'll, so just to remove three, number four,
I think you get rid of forwarded to the chief. For appointment, I think you'd be the one forwarding it to the PFC for the appointment. Right, in that first sentence, on number four,
recommendations.
all recommendations will be forwarded to the, by the chief, sorry, I misread it,
Okay, good.
Will be forwarded
I was confused.
by the chief.
good lord. Word by the chief of PFC, yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, number five.
Section B. Chief has the option for demotion. Is that true, or does that conflict with PFC stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be blessed by PFC, you're right. But what bothered me even more was, so in a separate action here, we actually are working on this paragraph that talks about current job descriptions,
Mhm.
what they are defined as. And so A says that the candidates will be qualified based on that current job description.
Mhm.
And then B says required training and ability to perform their duties to move up will show progress to the completion within the first year of advancement. I think that's contradictory to the above. If our job descriptions say, hey, you gotta have fire one, fire two, and fire officer class done. And then the B is saying, you gotta get it done within a year after you're promoted, where our job description says you gotta have it completed before we promote you. So that's my concern there.
Well, I think, yeah, because we're revamping those, now we're
And Jason, could you,
kind of loop,
Yeah.
with the way the job descriptions are written now, it's desired minimum qualifications. If we change it to minimum requirements,
We did,
then, well,
drafted,
kind of, yeah.
drafted, anyway, drafted,
Then there is no wiggle room there.
right.
Where if it's desired, okay, he doesn't fit, but this kind of gives you an out. If nobody is qualified as the way the job descriptions are written now, then I guess it gives you the option of we can promote them, but then they have to do this.
I guess, and not to get off, because obviously we're not covering that here, but what qualifications for your officers that, I guess, that they would have to have before they are eligible to?
yeah, I was gonna ask a similar way, is what other additional things?
I mean, I'm assuming
What
like
each
fire
one-
officer one,
Yeah, what we did, Dustin, was we mirrored the state statute.
okay,
And basically that is fire officer one.
Yep.
For all ranks, actually. That's what the state requires, lieutenant, captain,
Yep.
assistant.
Mhm.
But we didn't have that. But we required that, and then we took away some other things that were just too stringent, too ridiculous to have under your belt before being promoted, such as what was it, Jason, the,
Emergency services instructor, and
Well,
some,
ESI class.
some of the ICS courses that are.
yeah, the NIMS like
Only available
300 was,
Yeah.
Mississippi
you
or
don't
whatever.
need that as a lieutenant. We don't probably ever
They
need
don't
it.
do them very often.
Right.
Right.
I think.
So what we did was we revamped these, and they're in draft form awaiting committee and board approval.
Sure.
But what we did is we changed it to not desired, but minimum job recommendations. I'm assuming the committee and the board are gonna approve those. If that's the case, then B, we got a problem with B.
Right, because you can't deviate from them.
Yeah.
They're state requirements, yeah.
Right.
And so you're saying that there's no additional beyond the minimal for, there's no to be,
That, we did make an additional, beyond the state minimum guidelines, and that was, Jason wanted his officers to be fire one and fire two. Believe it or not, the state doesn't require that.
but to be promoted to another rank does not require anything additional.
No, the minimum
No.
is the fire.
Fire officer.
One.
Yeah.
That is your minimum requirement to be an officer.
Okay,
By the state.
okay,
See, I guess.
Oh.
B, I would strike out completely.
yeah,
I mean, anything else is something that, they wanna further themselves for education wise,
Mhm.
obviously good on them. But if you have, requirements that are, you have to have this before, we could put you there.
Right, because if these changes go through, it won't be an option to
Right.
deviate from these.
Yeah. Everybody okay with that?
yeah, just striking out B
Yeah.
completely. Number 6. Could number 6 say if the chair so chooses to have a department membership committee, then it'll be made up of. I mean, since this is the part, if I understand, where the membership committee is sort of codified in existence, it says that there has to be one in existence. But should that not start with a clause or something that says if the chief so chooses to have a membership committee, then it shall be made up of.
It probably should be something like that because it's hanging out there all by itself now, since we removed all mention of it earlier.
I agree, but there's also another factor, and I'm not sure if it's in the bylaws or another document, that the membership committee has involvement with LoSA points, I thought. With reporting of those, what's the acronym?
Just review LoSA.
LoSA.
Well, now they changed it to SAP, but
Oh,
still the same thing.
okay,
Length of Service Award Program.
okay,
It's a system with the state, where the village contributes money, towards a retirement fund for the firefighters, but there's a set minimum, attendance requirements that people have to meet, and the membership committee will review those every quarter just to see where people are to make sure they're meeting their attendance requirements.
So Scott, in other places where there's a PFC and no membership, how are some of these things then discussed or advised if there is no membership committee?
it's done by the chief and his designee.
I was gonna say, so really the membership committee ends up being sort of a advisory, maybe just on membership or in other ways. I mean, is the membership utilized just for strictly membership related things, or do they act as sort of a senior?
They used to act as a hiring body, but now I would term their existence more of an advisory to the chief in
Mhm.
LoSA and other areas. You have used them by your choice in promotion recommendations.
Yep, I mean,
Um,
it's knowledge of a
Yeah.
whole handful of people, and it's good to get input from them.
yeah,
So you would use them for promotion and LoSA? Is that the two primary things?
Right, yeah, they've kind of been taken out of the fresh hiring process.
Could this be the place where it says, if the chief so chooses a department membership committee optional clause or other advisory group, yes, advisory group, advisory. To discuss promotion. Would you include demotion or just promotion?
Yeah, I wanted to circle back around to that demotion part.
Did we, so yeah, so
We struck that.
we
out of-
struck it out and that was the only reference to demotion.
Yeah.
well, wait a minute, he's got the authority to demote within the first year of holding that rank without PFC. I thought,
Well,
it's like a probationary status for rank.
I know we've done that with promoting to an upper rank, but I didn't know if that conflicted with PFC rules.
You know, to be honest with you, I'd have to double check.
Cause if we leave that section in there, or we mention it in the membership committee section about demotions. And I need the blessing of the PFC, we should probably mention that.
For promotion.
Mhm.
And that would be within the 1 year probationary for an officer.
That's what's sticking out in my
Or even,
mind.
or even a new member.
Well, new members go through associate member process,
Sure.
so. they
You don't
can-
even really need to bring it back to the PS.
Right.
No,
no.
no, they can be released at any time, until we vote them on.
As a whole.
They're like an at will.
Oops.
Now, if you were to have, say, an officer, but we're a newly promoted one. That you'd want to be moved, for whatever reason,
Mhm.
would you want the department membership committee to be a part of that, or would you want it to be your decision, I guess? Ultimately. I would think it'd be your recommendation to the PSC, hey, so-and-so just isn't meeting our standards, here's the documentation as to why they're not meeting our standards for the office.
Mhm.
Of that officer's position. I'd like to put this person back to their previous spot. I just don't know if you want the membership committee to be part of that, or if that's something that you'd want to.
It'd probably be good for a cover your behind.
Sure,
kind
have
of
more,
thing.
more eyes on it.
Yeah.
If they're your problem child with rank or above, I don't know that you would want his subordinates
That's,
Yeah.
that's,
giving you
yeah.
recommendations to demote,
that's true.
you know?
Well, you'd also, but you could have, if the active members have seen them not act appropriately or make unwise or unsafe decisions on fire grounds or emergency scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is also.
Sure.
An active member could see that,
Mhm.
you know, because I know they're a direct subordinate, but in the same token. If you see someone doing something wrong, then, but you know, their recourse of action would be to not go to that officer, but to you.
Right.
You know, Jason, it may not be, specifically cited in PFC rules. We do talk about suspension. suspension of a subordinate, for just cause, chief, by the chief, shall file a report of such suspension with the PFC, within 48 hours of doing it. But no hearing on the suspension shall be held unless requested by the suspended subordinate. Okay, so really, you suspend somebody and they don't want to appeal and to the PFC, it is what it is. But it doesn't answer your question of permanently demote. I don't know that it's addressed in PFC. It might be in statute.
Interesting, it must be somewhere.
I wonder if it's addressed in the state statute.
Okay,
We can.
but,
we can
Yeah,
do some
well,
homework.
I'll keep looking at that.
well, and maybe we'll put the language in with it highlighted, or at least, you know. So what I had, and I kind of went back and revised it, if the chief so chooses, they may form a department membership committee or other advisory group, or other such advisory group, I should say, to discuss promotion, demotion of an officer in probation, and LOSA. Period. Such group, and then the rest goes into what is already written, will be made up of 4 members, and then the rest stays as that. So I'll read that again. If the chief so chooses, they may form a department membership committee or other such advisory group to discuss promotion, demotion of an officer in probation, and LOSA, period. Such group, and then will be made up of, and whatever. Once you got that, does that make sense? It kind of covers your ground, but then it brings up another thing is, how would, should there be something in there about dissolving it I mean, you have the creation of one.
Yeah, but you're putting in there that if the chief chooses. So you don't have to have one, but you can have one. By the chief's choosing.
Yeah,
I don't think you need to talk about dissolving the committee or anything like that, cause it's at the chief's discretion to have it or not have it.
So guys, do you wanna add?
so that's, a new chief isn't gonna, well, this is the system I got, but they can say, well,
Yeah, they have the
if-
right to change
yeah,
it
if
if they so choose.
chief so chooses, it's built, baked in there, so.
So, when you, this group who is, in existence to discuss promotion, demotion, and LOSA. That being the case, do you want to, on the last sentence of that paragraph, if one of the committee members is interested in a promotion being discussed, do you want to add in a promotion being discussed, in a promotion, demotion? And LOSA? Nah, LOSA wouldn't be being discussed.
Is
I'm just saying, if you're
interested
gonna
in-
add, duties. The last
Is
sentence,
interested in one of these being discussed in one,
or do you just eliminate the last sentence and trust the chief will,
so if one of
Ask
the
the guy
committee
to step
members is
out. I don't know.
interested, okay, so. If one of the committee members is interested in a promotion being discussed, is that implying they want to be promoted?
yeah,
So they're
Mhm.
left, well then. How often is someone gonna say, I wanna be demoted, so I need to leave the room, so would that make sense? Would it only make sense with promotion?
okay, unless a membership, member is being considered by the chief to be demoted.
And there, so then they'd have, if they're part of that membership committee. Yes, it'd be a direct conflict of interest, so you're gonna want somehow to be like, no, you can't sit in on this. Versus them already being part of that committee and them saying, well, I'm part of this committee, so I want to sit in on it.
Okay, so this is also implying that they get to bring up a promotion request at any time. Is that right? Or is there a promotion time, or is it just whenever
Whenever there's an opening.
there's an opening? So nobody could just. Motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread it. I thought it was if someone was interested in discussing a promotion, like, hey, could you put it on the agenda? I want to talk about promotion, like. You're not gonna be promoted unless there's a place to be promoted. I misread it, like they get to like, okay, if one of the is interested.
Well-
So it said if a committee member is involved,
Yeah,
it would it be in the word involved instead of interested, involved in a promotion / demotion
yeah,
being discussed,
that would work.
involved in a promotion / demotion. I put devotion, but I think it meant demotion. Being discussed. They must be excused from the committee and will not have it. Okay, does that make sense? Okay,
Sure.
okay.
I don't think the chief would ever bring a membership committee in to talk about a demotion that he's considering though. Do you?
Probably not, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm thinking no.
I would get feedback from people that I thought could give me the most accurate feedback or
Not an official
complaints
group
or whatever.
vote or
No.
whatever, yeah.
And before I move on with this, with all these things struck out, is there anything that has been removed or unsaid? Just to clarify, the purpose. So we're giving sort of, maybe boundaries of it, that there's 3 things related to membership: promotion, demotion, and LOSA. And that seems to be the 3 things that you would discuss.
With the membership committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have what it would be made up of. Is there anything in here that, because we've crossed a lot of things out, that,
Jason, I think he should rename the committee. It's not a membership committee at all. It's an advisory group,
At this point, yeah.
you know,
Could,
it's up to you, but sometimes semantics make things harder, but it's an advisory group that you're looking for input on these 3 areas.
I'll think about it.
Okay,
Let's leave it for now, just so I don't have to go back through and.
it is true. I mean, if you rename something, you might confuse it, but if you keep the name, then there's gonna be baggage left of what this is what we thought it meant. Okay. Okay, anything else with section 7? Section 8. Page 11, power of excuse. We'll look at 1 and 2, numbers 1 and 2.
One's accurate.
Your problem too.
any good?
Number 3, number 4.
I'm good.
Number 4 conflict with, the village employee handbook or employee. Whatever their process is when people are hurt. Do they need to bring a doctor's note or, I imagine they have to get a release for physical labor stuff.
Yeah, I don't have that manual with me.
I don't
A
either.
lot of places have, you're gone for 3 or more days, you need a note,
Right.
come back. Well, that wouldn't work that way in your department though.
No.
It's not like a consecutive,
No,
yeah,
or not
work day.
full-time, no.
yeah.
No, but in the same token, if you have someone off, say like a back injury or something like that, you're gonna want a doctor, don't saying that, yeah, they can come back now.
Yeah,
I think you leave it
Okay,
as it is, so that way, even if they report anything to you, you know, as far as an injury or health issue or whatever the case may be, that they come back with a note saying that they can actually respond to calls or do the duties of.
Made a note, I'll check with that manual too.
okay.
And number 3, no member shall be excused from the fire station after the incident. What incident is that referencing?
Emergency calls, you know, like a fire call. When we get back to the station, there's all kinds of work that has to be done. We have to go through the air packs and clean them and
Okay, so
clean the hose, wash the truck and,
could we rephrase that, the fire station after, I don't, the incident, that's not how you refer to those. I mean, what would you call those? Cause I was thinking the incident, I was like, is that referencing something above? And it was, I mean, it just, cause I was kind of confused about what that meant.
I would just maybe either change it to after an incident or a incident or after a call.
we could change
Call
that
for
to
service or something.
fire/EMS calls.
That's what it's referencing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just, an incident almost sound like an accident,
Right,
type
right.
thing on site.
Right, so just so I'm clear, we're changing from the after fire station, the words fire/EMS call. And then it continues, except by the chief or officer in charge. Okay,
After,
after the incident is being struck. And fire/EMS call is being inserted.
Well,
from the
ju-
fire
just the
station,
Incident is being.
yeah, after all,
Sorry.
after all fire/EMS calls. I think, okay. Okay, so
My mistake.
we figured out 4,
Yeah, I think 4 is fine, so like I said, you know, this doing fire and EMS, you're gonna wanna make sure that they're fit for duty, 'cause if they're not fit for duty and something happened, and they come back, and then there's a whole mess of things.
okay,
Yeah, as long as there's not something else that would contradict with the village, you know, it has,
Yeah.
the doctor's note has to be filed with the clerk or
Right.
something like that.
okay. Number 5. Anything with 5?
On B, Jason, how does that work in regards to LoSA standing? You had said some of the things that you review, to make sure the guys are putting in their LoSA points are, I assume responding to calls and drills and training.
Yep.
If he's, on leave, a granted leave that you granted for 6 months, and he comes back for another 6 months, but he's not able to get his minimum LoSA points, what do you do? What do we do about that B?
At the end of the year, I go through and, fill in information for the membership. And, leave of absence is, one of the categories on there. So if someone does not make their, or does not meet their LoSA requirements, you have to give a reason why, or else, there's a time thing, if they have less than 10 years into the program and they don't meet their LoSA requirements, they lose all 10 years of their LoSA contributions. Where if someone takes a leave of absence, they don't lose all that time that they've accrued into the program. They just lose out on that 1 year that they have the leave of absence.
So a guy 3 years on the job won't lose his whole 3 years, he'll just lose 1 and then start again on year 5.
Right, when he comes back, he or she comes back, then it starts up again.
Okay,
So nothing's being put into the program, it's just to protect them from losing everything they've accumulated.
so you're on, when you have people on leave, you don't generally probably don't give them the, credits for that year.
Right,
You know,
Right, and
if they spend, obviously, if they don't have them. anyway.
yeah, and it's right on that form. You
Okay.
put in leave of absence.
Is there a maximum time for that? I noticed that there's no amount of time being requested, but you're talking about an entire year. Would a leave of absence generally be 12 months? Or less than, what would happen if it went over a year and they're starting a new year? 13, whatever, what
You had a
happens?
guy, I forgot his name, but you had a guy in this position.
Yeah,
How long was he gone?
Kyle, he was gone for a little over a year.
Okay,
So does that eat into the second year, or does that year two? How does that work with year two for him?
Yeah, I just extended that into the second year and, he missed out on, 2 years of
Oh.
lost contributions.
oh, okay,
It behooves the member to come back
sure,
to start gaining those points back again.
yeah,
okay.
But to your point, I imagine there is a limit
Max,
somewhere, you know,
yeah.
if somebody does this for 35 years, I mean, you gotta.
I have a bad back, it just kills me.
You gotta cap it off somewhere, I guess, but I don't know if the rules say that.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure, so,
I know guys that would do that.
I will. Section 8, is anything else with that? Okay, section 9, discipline, penalties, and forfeitures. Number 1. Mason, do you have a mission statement for the department?
Yeah, it's posted on the bulletin board, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I know we have one.
Let's, why don't we, does that? When was that put together?
Well, a number of years ago.
Could that be put in here, like at the front of the packet or something? Just, I mean, outside the realm of the bylaws, but just put it in there, cause my ears perked up when I saw the mission, I'm like, oh, what is it?
Maybe,
Or
I'd put it right on the front page underneath. the
part of,
statement.
yeah, and in, yeah, and in some ways,
I would do.
it's not something that has to be codified within the bylaws, but at least. Now that in the same packet you have what the mission is, and that allows you to change it or, go through a process of however you wanna.
well, send it to me, I'll just put it down here, I guess.
Okay.
Which I'm sure probably blows the mind of a lot of people, but like, we have to have a mission statement, we're a fire department, it should be laid out, but I'm sure that there's something about quality and. Things like that, that's included in it.
You have to have one for,
Yeah.
ISO
Okay.
requirements.
It's-
Nonprofits, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
That, yeah, I guess, yeah, they do. Okay, anything with number 1 before we go to number 2? Number 2.
Oh, I just caught it just now. We had done this once before. The last sentence of number 2. Reports shall be submitted to the village for documentation. We had determined in some other paragraph that should say to the village clerk. And strike for documentation.
After that last meeting, where we went through this before, I remember, it was added, village administrator was added, it was sprinkled all over in here, and we removed it.
Yeah.
Administrator and just left it as village, so.
Right, and then somebody told us it should be clerk.
The keeper of, the keeper of the documents.
Yeah, right.
Is what Dwayne said.
Oh, that's what Dwayne said, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, number 3.
So it's saying, you gotta attend, who fails to attend 3 consecutive meetings, and those are monthly, right, Jace?
Meetings, yes.
Yeah, and then, or one half of the drills, which are also monthly? Different day, or it could be,
Different day.
Okay.
Yes, they're monthly. They're twice per month in the summertime.
okay. So, and then, so as defined by section 2.4, and you go back to 2.4, and 2.4 makes reference to, member cannot miss more than one business meeting per quarter and must attend at least half of the drills and training throughout the year. So I guess that is in line with, this is in line with 2.4, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, okay. Unless excused, as in section 9, which is what we're on now, which is you later, I think. Chief
Him
excused?
before, or excused.
That, yeah,
Actually, it should
I
be
think that's a
section 8,
typo. It should be 8.
Oh,
not 9.
change that to 8 then, okay. Perfect.
Number 4.
Well, I stand corrected, Jason. It looks like the motion comes under the guise of your recommendation to the PFC.
It does state that in here, doesn't it?
Yeah. Maybe that's where I read it before is the bylaws. So, the last sentence, it seems to intimate that a member can receive progressive disciplinary action by the chief or any officer if not involving suspension, demotion, or termination. Actually, to be more accurate, suspension would not be included in that sentence because the chief can suspend without PFC involvement. But demotion or termination, then he needs PFC involvement. So suspension should be struck, I believe, from that sentence because you got that right already without PFC
Okay.
approval.
I thought I read it somewhere. It was a while ago that the chief could suspend, but it was temporary until the PFC could make a more firm judgment, I guess.
Yeah, it's more, chief can suspend, but if your guy doesn't like it, he can appeal the PFC. And then the PFC can affirm the suspension or be less or more disciplinary up to and including termination.
Yep, I knew that.
So there's a little
Because-
risk.
So obviously suspension is by nature something that's temporary.
Yeah.
At the
now-
beginning, I mean, you started out as a temporary disciplinary action that needs to take further notice. So,
Yeah,
but what would end a suspension? Like he could end it if something was, they made amends or
well,
whatever.
no, he should set a specific time period. You're suspended for
Oh,
30
because
days.
of this incident
Because
or
of,
whatever.
due to your crashing the fire truck, into the lady's house on her way to a call, you're suspended for 30 days. Now, where I came from, and it has nothing to do with us here, but where I came from, if a chief wanted to suspend a employee for more than 30 days, then he had to go to a PFC. But that's not what it says in Wisconsin. I just wonder if we should address a specific time period, that suspensions can be from 1 to 60, I don't know, whatever.
Is there anything in the employee handbook or something along those lines that references the amount of time?
That's a good.
Great question.
If it's laid out in there, in this, it says, the village employee handbook. That you already have it laid out in that,
Mhm.
in that paragraph. So if it mentions anything in the employee handbook about it, then I think you'd be covered.
I'll look at that. Sounds good.
So with this, we,
I would still recommend striking out suspension
okay,
because it's not. He doesn't have to come to us for that. We'll
Okay.
check up with the employee handbook to see if he's restricted to a certain amount of days,
Right.
you know?
okay. Number 5. It also involves A, B, and C.
You have meetings that are just the officers, Jason?
Yes,
Okay,
every other month.
okay. Well, if you had a problem child, it would be that meeting that you may elect to bring up for discussion?
Yeah, it's never really gone to that level
Okay,
in my short time.
okay. I don't know that placing your employee on a temporary leave of absence is the correct term. If it's pending a decision to move to PFC is behavior.
Mhm.
I,
Administratively. Be placed on administrative leave.
that's a lot of times what you do for someone involved in a shooting.
Right,
You're on
Okay.
administrative leave pending investigation.
Yep.
Doesn't mean he did anything wrong,
right.
but
So, placed on administrative leave at that last, 4 words.
yeah,
Administrative leave. Anything else with 5A, B, or C? Six. Anything in number 7?
all good.
Section 10(1), appeals for a grievance.
Do have a question on number 1. Obviously someone has the right to appeal to the PFC. I'm not sure that that request should go to. I would say that that request should go to the PFC directly.
Yeah,
Just,
especially if
it'll,
the grievance is about the chief, then.
correct, and then it just eliminates you from that completely and saying, oh, well. You didn't like me, so you didn't turn it into the, something
Mhm.
stupid like that, just to cover your butt. Just go straight to the BOC and your
To
hands are clean of it.
PFC,
Or
so,
whoever the chief is.
so remove chief and say shall be submitted to the
To the
PFC in
yeah.
writing in the nature
Yep.
of the grievance described. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Section 11, pay provision. Number one.
Question for you on the first responder call. Do you have a set amount of people that can go to a first responder call, or do you just whoever comes, comes? Whoever comes, okay. Sorry, I'm just getting, I'm on the number through.
That's fine. I know, I'm kind of,
That has
Um,
changed over the years, like years back, we had 12 first responders and we would set a limit, you know, you can respond, but only the first 4 are getting paid or something
Sure.
like that, so it's kind of a.
The 4 that show up, the first 4 that are responding, yeah. Is that what it is now?
No, now, just because our membership is much lower, it's not a problem, I guess, so whoever shows up gets paid.
Okay.
That is nitpicky stuff for number 2, where his name appears and fulfilling his department duties.
Oh,
We could switch that to there.
Just there.
Where is to there?
I saw that several times. Could we just make a note that whoever goes through this, could they just, as an editorial thing, change all of those?
Sure, although there's a caveat on the table of con
Yeah, there's a
Text.
disclaimer on page 2.
Yeah, I know. Well,
about,
if you were to do that, then you can just remove that.
oh, okay,
Say, yeah.
okay,
Now, that doesn't mess up anything legally to say there, because that would be a neutral. Right, I don't think, how legalistically that gets understood, so. I circled those, but knowing that, I think that would just be more of an editorial thing, if someone can go through there without having to pinpoint every single one of them.
gotcha.
Just go ahead and, go through the end of it. Well, there's, at least stay with this page 14.
You have the master plan?
Moving on to page 15. 11 through 14.
I just had some questions for Jason under the paid column. So these are activities that will be paid or unpaid if it's only receiving 0 point. So. Well, I see one thing that you get paid for is going to a village or public meeting. That is only if you assign them probably, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
People who attend on their own
Right.
accord is.
I think that was brought up too, and should that say by invite of chief or by,
I would say by designee.
by,
I'd say, I would assume like, if so, like you couldn't come to a board meeting, you'd have like your first assistant chief go for you instead.
So you're
I
saying,
think that's kind of what you're trying to get at with.
yeah,
Yep, exactly.
village or public meeting by designee, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, by designee of the chief.
Of chief.
Okay. And then. Oh, I don't know, membership committee interviews, is that? I don't know,
Yeah, it's
I
kind of
don't,
a, kind of a non,
yeah,
We wanna strike that one? Or? What are we thinking?
and then bylaw
we could strike that.
below too, revisions. Well, I don't know,
I didn't know I was getting paid
Well,
for
I mean,
this.
I would say keep the bylaw, the SOG.
okay,
Just because. They might not do the bylaws, but they could be doing some department SOGs that, need to be changed.
you're right, yeah, you're right. And then my final jab at Jason, activities approved by the chief, so I really want to get paid for basket weaving, chief.
I'd say, no, you're not approved for that.
You, well, you let
If
Joey do it.
Caleb comes in and installs a new, 12,000 pound winch on the front of the brush truck, yeah, I'll approve that one.
I got you.
So it's just kind of a,
So these
Kind of-
happen occasionally,
a catch-all for things that provide benefit to the department. They're not spelled out in here,
And
I
you have
see.
you have a budget every year, right?
Mhm.
So I would assume that would kind of fall under, as long as you don't go over your budget approving
Right,
X, Y, or Z. I think that would be, because otherwise, I mean, the village board gives you that authority to exercise within that budget constraints, right?
yeah, I mean, with the understanding that, yeah, you don't go hog
It's
wild,
reasonable.
and
Yeah.
everybody comes down there and pushes a broom, every day gets.
You
paid.
get it.
Yeah,
a new car for you and a new car for you.
but no, yeah, you come in, I switched over all the scene lights from halogen LED, it took me all afternoon on Saturday.
Yeah,
You should get paid for that.
gotcha.
Okay, now we're into section 12, page 16, duties of officers and members. Well, did we not already do this section? Why did I already had notes on here?
Well, I have a note too, as that one, added at the end, 5.06.
Yeah, I had that too, we must have skipped ahead and.
Did we do it?
I don't
Yeah,
know how we did it, oh. Yeah, remember Dwayne was taking us to this page on the
When
first
we were doing that.
one.
I don't know, cause I said SPS number at the end of
Yeah,
number
'cause
one.
we were,
Maybe it was just one we looked at though. Not the rest, I don't know.
Was it spelled out in the village ordinances? Is that what that?
yeah,
Right,
What's that?
Yeah, yes, that's what we were comparing the village ordinance, and I tried to bring it up here, just making sure the wording jived.
That's right.
yeah.
So how far did we get into this?
I think it was just that one.
it's number one, I
I
think.
think,
So we were gonna add 5.06. And then I have a note, and I don't remember the discussion though. I have a note parentheses PFC statute applicable. What does that mean?
I did write at the top SPS number above that.
Hmm. Oh. Maybe it was, what
Cafe's having a good time tonight.
are they even doing there?
I can hear
It's not a fish fry, that's for sure.
No. I think this was a note to myself to look up the state statute regarding the authority of a PFC. The chief shall be the head of the department, subject to the laws of the state of Wisconsin, ordinances and rules and regs, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, but it was also gonna say as, and maybe as duties as spelled out in SPS. I think.
Oh, SPS 330?
Yes, I think to give a reference to that of where, whatever that section says for his duties.
Oh, well, that's, actually a different statute, but yeah, I can find those numbers. Um. We got 5.06 and, you know, how it says in the state statute, the fire chief's authorities, it's a whole bunch of stuff about fire chiefs.
Yeah, I think that's.
Throw a
It's a
number in
huge
there.
section,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
you don't wanna,
is.
you don't
Yeah, I
wanna
think-
quote all that.
No,
stuff.
No, so that's what that was. The chief shall be at the head of the department, subject to the laws of the state of Wisconsin. That was where the reference was gonna be.
Oh, I'll insert it there.
Insert it there,
Okay, all right.
just so that there was a, you know, if this was a digital copy, it could be like a hyperlink or something type thing, but ordinances to the village.
I gotcha.
And then it might be the reference there and the rules and regulations adopted here, and so that was what it was supposed to be.
Okay,
So, number two, you have 5 minutes, so, number two. Number three. Number four. Number five. Go ahead and just go through the end of 16, if you have anything.
We need to have another meeting, or if you guys make it through today.
It's that time already.
Yeah.
If we could.
be honest, Caleb, I went through this pretty close and I didn't have any other concerns. At all.
You guys.
Yeah.
Thank
All right,
you.
see you, Doug.
Anything else? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
But you know, tell me what you think we should do.
Well, yeah, I mean, going through, I mean, we can skip through, I mean, the duties. I'm not gonna be one to say what the duties should be or shouldn't be, so I have no opinion about the duties of the chief, assistant chiefs, captains, lieutenants, uh. Duties of firefighters, which I'm gonna start with 18, duties of fire, page 18. Pager outlines. Is that what they have as pagers?
Mhm.
Okay. Preposition, hang on, they're training. Going on to page 19.
And when you look at number 7 on page 19, this is another project that Jason and I have been working on with regard to job descriptions. And 7 talks about job description and education levels for entry-level firefighter. But we feel that and we are going to recommend to Lon's committee and the village board that firefighter one or higher be deleted from that minimum requirement. Yeah, we're gonna keep in DNR wildland firefighter, and we're gonna keep in ICS 100 and 700, but not 200. So we would like, well, I would like firefighter one or higher and ICS 200 deleted. Yeah, he gets a mentor while he's on probation, it's
Mhm.
all good. But we wanted to kind of conform this with this other project that we're working on with,
So maybe just be,
FHR.
mark those in contingent to that vote and just have those striked with that note, with that comment there, so we know. So that way, if.
Any committee and board vote.
Yeah.
Okay,
Number 8. Okay, duties of safety officer. Safety is spelled wrong. The word doesn't always, word doesn't catch misspelled words when you capitalize it all. So
is
you
that
have.
right?
Mhm.
When you capitalize?
Yeah, it doesn't
catch
read it, no,
Oh.
unless you turn on the feature, but
Oh,
what you're doing is. You have the officers, then you have all the firefighters, and then now you have. Officers with, I'm just trying to get it, cause that. I thought we were done with duties of firefighters and then we're still going on, so it seemed out of order. Safety officer. This. What's the words that I wanna use? You have. Is that's not a rank, that's a duty assigned?
Yeah, it's a duty, it's required by, Wisconsin DSPS, we have to have a designated safety officer on the department. But say that one person is not on that particular emergency scene, you can assign someone else to be the safety officer. And they have,
I think you have to.
yeah, they can trump incident command if they notice, a safety concern.
so this is someone, so this is someone as assigned on the scene.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's
Doesn't
why,
necessarily need rank either.
that's what I was saying, it's not a ranking.
It
That's-
generally might be, but it doesn't
I was
have to
getting
be.
confused with the word officer, I'm like, oh, you're one of the
Right.
officers of the, no, that's, but they use that's the title of it, you
It's the
can't.
terminology. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Okay. What they do is. Duties of department secretary, drivers, operators, fire inspector, like, master mechanic. Any of these duties. Minutes will be provided to the village clerk.
Where did you see another village clerk thing?
It's already in there, duties of department secretary.
Oh, okay, it's correct then, okay. Is not a fire inspector generally or a higher ranking officer,
Doesn't have to be,
doesn't have to be, okay, as
um,
long as they got the certification.
Yep.
Yep.
the chief oversees the fire inspectors,
Right,
um,
okay,
but, yeah, you don't have to be an officer to be a fire inspector.
gotcha.
You just have to be the state certified inspector.
Reports on accountability.
Go through that course, pass the test and all that.
Which is kind of a big deal, I'm sure.
It is, it's tough. I went through it.
Yeah, I know, yeah,
It's no joke.
right. So can I ask who the master mechanic is? Is it Ben?
We split it now, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's split between Ben and, Nick Dasso.
Oh, okay.
With, going back to the department secretary. Monthly reports on accountability, payroll minutes will be provided to the village clerk. Should these items be presented at a public safety meeting? I mean, would it be the chair's request to the village clerk to have those provided? I mean, what's the village clerk gonna do with them? Simply file them away? I mean, there should be copies at the department too, right? We're not just giving them, and so what's the purpose of the village clerk having them? Simply as a second copy? Are they supposed to be utilized by the board or the public safety committee? That's kind of.
Well, especially payroll. I mean, that has to make it to, the treasurer so people can get paid.
Yeah,
But as far as minutes, yeah, I guess that would be just for, in case anybody wants to see them.
yeah, if somebody comes to the village asking for them, they're right here on file.
We filed them also and retained the records for, 7 years. But, yeah, I guess maybe it's just,
She's kind of keeper of the records in the village, you know?
she is, yeah.
But maybe I'm wondering if committee chairs want those, they probably need to ask Diane for them,
Yeah, in some ways, it's,
you know?
what should the chair be asking for so that it's not being duplicated or not, asking it to people who provides it in the packets? Okay, okay. Moving on to section 13. I have struck out standard operating and it says general guidelines because this was, I think that Dwayne felt like none of these were actually SOGs. But I mean, in anything there, you need a miscellaneous at the end. I think that's what this is a miscellaneous. There was one of them I was looking at,
You wanted to change the title to what?
I think it was just,
General guidelines.
general guidelines,
Guidelines?
yeah. Meant to be, I think, miscellaneous, since they don't, formally. Defined as SOGs. Anything with this one?
I don't have anything.
I remember when we were going through this and it just popped in my head, establishing how. So establishing either an extra section at the end, establishing how and when bylaws are reviewed. How often. And where's that process? The only other reference you had under paid duties was revision. And I'm thinking that. Could bylaws go outdated because we're not looking at them often? Or, we close it up. How long do we have to wait before we reopen it again? I mean, because in some ways, Well, I think when we first were looking at this, I was treating or thinking of it like kind of a living document, but bylaws, I mean. I don't know how often we need to, I mean, we're. I don't know,
According to history, it looks like about every 10 years.
Well, right, and that's why we're in this situation, because
They do
the old
change.
bylaws,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of changes went through.
Sure.
And now we're having to do a lot instead of just changing a section here.
yeah, well, I'm wondering, like, who requests revision? How does that, what does that process look like? Because. I mean, I don't know how it was done in the past, but it's interesting because we have bylaws, but there's nothing to codify. How to do the revision in an official way, unless it was supposed to be like this, but I almost guarantee you this is the first time we've done an ad hoc committee like this.
Mhm.
And so I'm just thinking, I was thinking like bylaws to be reviewed every 5 years or something like that.
Under
But then-
section 14 maybe, or?
Yeah, I don't, or creating another section, I mean. If we need something changed, I mean, I think the reality is once it's changed, I mean, we need to address something, with the change of, uh. With the minimal qualification, we would want those changed immediately and not wait, it's set for the next 5 years, But we also don't want, they're not useful as bylaws if they can be opened up for every little thing, I mean, I suppose there could be requests made, but either the chair or the chief says no, I mean, there has to be something that kind of necessarily keeps that door closed for those type of things, so, I don't know, maybe they should be reviewed annually, but I don't know, once we do this, how often do we need to change it? I don't know. I don't know what that should look like.
Well, I'm assuming you're probably asking to change your policies and SOGs every once in a while, just because the fire service changes so much. Technology and advancements and
Sure.
I mean, we know we're not using foam anymore, right?
Well, certain types of foam. Yeah,
Well,
they're
I
not-
mean, the
not
deadly kind,
Polyfluoride.
Yeah,
carbon,
cancer kind.
not that
I
stuff,
know.
I get rid of all that.
yeah.
110 gallons of
Ugh.
it.
So it does change just by advancements,
Mhm.
the service, the fire service.
Mhm. I'm just trying something that could just be added to section 14 right before the list of
Dates.
revision dates. Bylaws shall be reviewed. I mean, I'm thinking annually or every 5 years, whatever that is, annually, whatever you wanna say. Or by request. Of. I don't know.
Well,
Is there a state, not necessarily a statute, but a guideline on, we're not reinventing the wheel. Is there a state
Right.
guidance or federal guidance on how often you should review things like this? 'Cause I'm with Caleb, I mean, we need to do something before it's 15 years from now and
Sure.
we're in the exact same
Of
boat.
course, if you're not looking at the bylaws, you also don't know that it says to review it every 5 years, like, there is kind of a catch-22 with that, but still, it
wait,
would be helpful to
wait,
know.
we're talking about firemen here. Firemen look at stuff like this. They're like, right?
There are people who love this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's not what section 4C, parentheses 3 says there, chief, Well, let's face it. Bylaws will be forwarded to the village board at the minimum, if not a public safety committee first for approval. So the village board ultimately has approval authority over a document like this, correct?
Yeah.
So if you were
I
gonna
think-
say bylaws shall be reviewed annually or by request of the village board, I think you would be safe. I don't know.
Reviewed by who? Does it have to spell it out? Can it
Does
be?
it have to be another ad hoc?
Firefighters or, yeah, ad hoc committee?
I was just if I may. I was just thinking annually by the chief, and then if something, like you say, annually by the chief, and then if major updates, then presented to the board at a bare minimum, that every year, like, let's say that there's like a major change, right? Well, you don't wanna wait 2 years to put it in, you wanna do that yearly at the minimum, but that's just kind of that catch-all, what if we needed to fix this year, then you update the board. On major changes, then maybe every 5 years, the board should have a review kind of like this.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too that, I mean, maybe that should be, maybe that, you know what, I think when we started talking about this, I think that someone said, put it in the ordinances. If it's the
Oh.
board, if the board, should be
Right.
making sure that it's done
I'm
every
just thinking
5
it should be
years.
just the chief's discretion or chief's responsibility to look at it.
To
every
review.
year,
Yeah.
update it every year, notify us of any major changes. And then the board.
So I have
the board
bylaws
can
share-
look at every 5 years.
Bylaws shall be reviewed annually by the chief. It would be good for the chief to continuously review them anyway, read through them, have a reason or excuse to read them.
Is there anything in the village ordinances, how often they get reviewed?
I don't,
If you could add a line right in there. Village ordinances, employee handbook,
Right.
and
So
fire
we're not
department
doing all
stuff
the
will
big
be
documents at once, that would
Yeah.
be helpful too.
Yeah,
it would be, yeah.
Feel like we did a lot this year.
you could have a really big ad hoc committee.
Yes. I'll make a note, I don't remember seeing it, but I'll make a note, and then if we need to take it to PIT committee, just to put it in an ordinance, then we can.
Yeah, okay.
For on the board side
Okay.
of things, obviously.
For the purposes of the bylaws, though, your modification you'd like is bylaws shall be reviewed annually by the chief. Is that correct?
Yeah, maybe adding and recommendation, recommended changes, recommended updates, how about that? Recommended updates,
Cause that could be as simple as, hey, I found this, we needed to change that, and you can say that at like the public safety meeting or whatever.
Mhm.
updates. Recommended updates to public safety, you're saying? So that we could do things that could maybe fall under editorial or something that's,
We'll just make sure it drives with the ordinances. And then if we would need to push it somewhere, then we can, but
okay.
just for advisement and.
Public, that's a good, it's interesting, these revisions, it's like, when you look back here, these are the only times that something has changed, probably not, I'm sure that there's been minuscule things that have changed. And I don't think it requires signatures every time something,
Nope,
I think
I
it's
don't think
just
they have been.
a major
Nope.
overhaul.
you're wrong, Caleb.
I think it's talking about major overhauls or major officially requested reviews of the whole document is when we sign it, is my understanding.
Well, you can't change a document all willy-nilly without going through a revision process. At least that's not the way you're supposed to. I don't know what happened in 93, but,
I remember in 81 though. These were,
we can't make little revisions here or there, update anything. Once this is solidified, then if there's a revision, it has to
Yeah.
be assigned a new revision.
yeah, we do the same thing with the PFC rules. It gets stupid on the revision entries, but that's what we do, so we know.
Yeah.
We haven't changed it without approval, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah,
you know.
but approval through all the way to the board.
Well, I don't know. I'll bet you in the 80s, the approval was done by the fire department membership committee, I'm assuming. You know what I mean?
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, I
Well, okay,
digress.
no, bylaws shall be reviewed annually by the chief and recommended updates,
Forwarded or,
forwarded to the public safety committee.
okay,
And then we can take it from there, whether it's whatever, if it stays there, I don't know. Cause So you're saying, so we get this down, we change the minimal. We get this approved, the minimal requirements, let's say, change or something. And so then 3 months from now, we're gonna have to. Revise it again with a new date and signature. Is that, I mean, that's the understanding.
I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
Um,
So we've made these agreed changes.
Yeah. but let's say something changes, like now we need to make sure that this gets in line again because something changed on the state level.
Something down the road.
Yeah,
Okay.
something down the road.
Okay,
So we'd have to go through the same process with a revision, new date,
Yeah.
new signature.
that's my feeling, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and I guess would be the prerogative if it goes through an ad hoc.
Yeah, right. But
Because
ultimately,
if it's a single thing that's changing,
I,
And then public safety, I would think we'd be able to address that and forward it on, without it having to be a
yeah,
special ad hoc committee.
okay,
yeah, but recommended changes
Yeah,
or
okay.
not, everything seems to go through a
Okay.
committee than a board.
so we are, I wish Dustin was here because I'd like to ask, is there anything that we felt was maybe missing or something like? I wish I could see the bylaws that there was something clever, like, oh, we didn't think about that, but did it feel like now that we're at the end of it, that it covers everything that? With it, without another department's side by side, I don't have anything that
Well, I think
strikes me that,
this village has the employee, manual too,
Mhm.
that regulates a lot of behavior, with the bylaws. Gosh, we have a lot of documents that regulate different, the department, like the village ordinance and the PFC rules and the bylaws. I don't know that we're missing anything, to be honest with you.
I couldn't imagine that we would be.
okay. Who? Who determines? It's at the bottom of the page. Who determines that it's a 2/3 majority? From department and village board? I mean, at what point, I mean, who strikes this up as part of the document?
I would think we would vote on it as a fire department. A 2/3 majority vote. And then we approve it and then pass it on to the village, and then the village board votes by a separate 2/3 majority vote.
Oh, man,
That's the way
I
I'm
didn't
reading
even
it.
see that.
This is what's really weird, is we're looking at a document with this in there. But who determines? This part of it? We determine that that's the process? I mean, what makes it, why 2/3? I mean, I know that sometimes there are kind of constitutional things that get super majority and ratified and all of that, but is that why we have, instead of a simple majority, a 2/3 majority?
I see what you're saying.
Well, the village board, by means of its odd number of trustees, it's always majority. I have never seen anything you guys have voted on by a 2/3
yeah,
of anything.
This might have been leftover language from, we defined what a quorum was in our meeting. And it used to be
Oh,
2/3.
that's right.
And then years ago, just because we couldn't get 2/3 of the membership to show up to a meeting, we changed it to majority of those present.
That wasn't that long ago, actually,
No, it
because
wasn't.
I remember
Yeah, it was
that.
just a handful of years, so I think that's where this language comes from.
well, the reason this was brought up, I talked to Dwayne today on the phone. And the process he'd like to see is from here to public safety to the board. So that's why we determine who. This is assuming a process that who gets to decide what that process is. And this is, I think, the piece where we were almost potential for stalemate. Because what happens if whether it's a simple majority, whatever, what if it doesn't pass? What would we know the reason for it not passing the department? I mean, it could be a nitpicking something, a wording here, they don't pass it or something like that, but I think it is our feeling that, my feeling, I think Dwayne's feeling that, um, the input of the fire department might have to be part of the public safety meeting when we approve it before the board. And to quote Dwayne is that you can give this to them for review, but I don't think it's necessary to actually have a formal vote over the document because a department doesn't get to vote on its own bylaws as members. I don't get to vote on the bylaws of my organization. Betsy doesn't get to vote on the bylaws or handbook at school. I mean, those are the things that because the people are too close to it, you can't be involved in that voting. And so I want to be diplomatic here because we need to both streamline it, but we also want to make sure that having another set of eyes we don't overlook something, to say we're going from here to here to there and then it's done. So I'm just saying that it is the recommendation that the fire department 2/3 majority vote be scratched and that it goes from here to public safety to the board is Dwayne's understanding of how the process should go. What are your thoughts about that?
I see what you're saying about the stalemate. I think the membership of the fire department, I mean, they take ownership of the document. I don't know that it would be a conflict of interest not to vote on your own set of governing policies. It would seem, I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that or wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, I would see it as a conflict of interest. Just, I said, in principle, I'm not saying anything particular. But, the revision is already sort of codified in here as, we already have as paid involvement is revision of the bylaws. So if the vision of the bylaws can happen in-house, I don't. Does that make sense, Scott? I mean, how we have paid activities, paid activities be revision of the bylaws. Should they be reviewing the bylaws in the first place?
Yeah, I guess you're kind of referring to an employee status revising a policy of sort or having input of a policy of sort.
It's I think there's a difference between an input or a recommended change, but I think that there actually might be something in a legal sense where you might not be able to, as an employee to whom things like this would affect them.
Yeah, I'm not
Right.
sure.
I don't know in a legalistic way how
So
that
every
works.
year at the school, we get, hey, we're looking at redoing the employee handbook for next year. Do you see employee and school handbook, whatever, however they word it? Do you see anything different? Do you have any recommendations? We can give our input and we can say why, whether or not it gets to the school board to get changed. It has to filter through the principal or the
And-
superintendent.
The opportunity for input is.
Right, so we
is
have
an important
opportunity, but
piece.
we don't get a vote on the employee handbook.
Right.
Like, if they come in and say, like, you must wear jeans every Friday, you don't get a say in that.
So that's the superintendent putting the document together and then the school board
So
or
that would be
the
like-
authority to approve?
Right, so,
Okay,
so that would be like if somebody has got an opinion on a bylaw, they can bring it to Jason, and then Jason can determine, do I, don't I,
Yeah.
and then bring it to public safety and discuss. Is how that would work in my head.
I think what I'd maybe like to do is, between now and January 2nd, when it comes to public safety, to give a copy of this to the officers, maybe a digital copy for their input,
Mhm.
for their input.
Let me ask you this.
Yes,
Just playing around today, I I took half the document, what we had reviewed up till today. And through highlighting only in yellow, I sent out to everybody on this ad hoc committee
Mhm.
what my notes and my recollection said that we had changed up until today. And that included highlights with strike through and highlights with additions. And I'm sure there's a proper way to do that. I think when you add, you're supposed to underline. I didn't do that. But anyway, I made it clear that the differences that we agreed upon were highlighted. In what manner do you want to proceed after today's meeting? Do you want me to continue through the whole document and highlight what my notes and my recollection is and do highlights and then send it to everybody for verification? Or do you want me to make those changes, take out the highlights and get a new revised document ostensibly ready for public safety committee?
I think so. Right now, it's color coded with previous changes.
No,
So that's all,
no, not mine. I
okay.
didn't use that one.
But
I
do you
used the
have-
August one, which had no
But
color.
do you have a digital I mean, or you're not just handwriting it?
No,
Yeah.
it's all, it's all inserted in the August draft. It's changed. Now I still have the August draft. I just made this separate. You know what I mean? I sent it, you didn't get yours today then. I sent it to you in
Yeah.
email.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just asking if that is the manner in which you want me to make the final product based on our discussions in these meetings.
Um,
Or would you like to review my recollection of the changes first before we do anything official? It's up to you guys.
Yeah, I hate to make you pull, double duty.
No,
because
it doesn't matter. That's not gonna be a problem.
If this does happen where the document has to come up for approval, you can't have all the strike throughs and highlights and stuff like that.
exactly.
It's gotta be, the final copy. But it would be nice to see
What changes
what
we've made.
changed, yeah.
Okay,
I think what we need to do, although we are cutting it close with a holiday coming up. And then New Year's and then it's on to that. Why don't you send out the corrections soon? And then
Okay.
each member kind of sign off on it
okay.
before it's sent out.
Yeah, like our draft color coded the changes that we've made in the last three
Yeah.
meetings.
It could be color coded, but also, yeah, additions are underlined and
Okay,
deletions are strike through.
Yep.
That way, when it's printed out in black and white, but this village only does black and white.
yeah,
unless,
I've been doing it on my,
And
Oh,
then we can see those changes.
okay,
Not depending on color.
sure, yeah.
And then it needs to be sent out. I would say after we sign off on it, then we need to give them. Which 1 week beforehand? I think it's next week.
I can have a copy before next Wednesday.
I think I can get it done tomorrow.
If we could sign off on it,
Okay.
if we can sign off on it,
Yeah.
Um,
Legally,
if you can get that to us and all 5 of us sign off on it by the end of this week,
okay,
that would give them a week and 2 days to have input. And those inputs, I think you collect those inputs. Okay, and then they have the option of public comment or friendly discussion at that point, but
or you could be their voice too.
yeah, well, I'm just saying that it would be more efficient if you give them a week to, from Tuesday to Tuesday, for their input. And then bring that, and then we can,
Okay, so
Take that into
here's, so
consideration.
just so I'm clear, what I'm going to do is create this document that has underlined and highlighted the additions we've made and has strike through and highlighted the deletions we have made. And then I'll also simultaneously, but won't put it out, I'll create that new document that has all those things in it without the strike throughs and underlines. Ready in anticipation of all the firemen coming here and saying, great job, ad hoc committee. We love you.
Okay, and then so that second copy is what we will have. That second copy is what the officers will get. I mean, the fire department will get for their input.
I'd go
I
the
don't
first
know. I
copy.
think
Mhm.
I'd go the
Jason will
first copy.
share the color coded one.
That's
color-coded
the I would
one,
like
And then,
to see.
and then the new copy is what will be presented at public safety.
That's what I'm saying. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
Yeah. that'll
Okay,
be that. So, write this down so that write down what we're discussing here, so we know the timeline. Okay, we can discuss the timeline. We need to have,
um,
by the end of this week, by Friday, we need to have all 5 of us sign off. I have to say almost majority, because I don't know about Dwayne, he might be,
Yeah.
yeah,
he might be in a bad situation, but,
That's
I
true.
don't think he'll be available on Friday.
oh, right, right.
or,
You don't wanna bother them with this stuff.
Yeah, right.
so, that maybe just kind of a majority. I mean, we'll wait, but make sure that we all do it by Friday. Sign off on the changes, and then, that we know that, yeah, that these are correct, and then, send it off. I think, Scott, if you can, send it off, if you could do it maybe December 26th. Or schedule, or who would it be to, because you don't have their emails. Is email primarily how they do things? You're not expecting like a hard copy.
I would print out a hard copy, and then the only reason I asked next Wednesday is because we have the training drill
Oh,
that night.
oh, I see.
and I would-
Do you have a color printer?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Then it'll show the highlight. I mean, it'll still have the underline and the strike through, so you can see it without the highlight, but still, it's kind of nice to have it pop.
Yeah, I'd like to print off a handful of copies, and
Okay,
we can all sit around the table and say, spend some time, let's look at this.
On the 27th.
Yeah, whatever next Wednesday is.
Mm,
25th, 26th, 27th, yeah, the
27th,
27th. So you'll have so for review. But as far as that time to sit down, that's gonna be your one time. I mean, they can get your input anytime after that, but it's gonna be, that's the only time that you're gonna have, the chance that you're gonna have to look at that entire document.
cause you're saying you're gonna look at it. in
We're gonna look
committee.
at it on the second, that
Mhm.
following Tuesday. You have the Wednesday to Tuesday, to
Yeah.
collect all the input for
Maybe,
that.
maybe I'll email it out earlier. So people can read it and digest it a little bit, and then Wednesday, by Wednesday, we'll have it.
So as soon as we have, let's say the 4 of us. I don't know if you wanna say majority or whatever, the 4 of us, should Jason then get permission to just forward it to the officers and have a copy printed out?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, cause if I've made a mistake, we wanna correct that before you send it out to your guys.
Yeah.
So I'll get it done by tomorrow for the committee members and Jason
Well,
included.
we'll look at it either Tuesday and get it done by Friday.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I'll wait till Friday before I send it out, wait till
Okay,
everybody's
Okay,
had
we'll
their-
try to
Sounds
get it
good.
done, yeah, it'd be best if we try to do it by Thursday. And then that way they have the weekend. Also to look at it as well.
Yeah,
That would be good. I mean, by the time you sit down on Wednesday, maybe they're not necessarily looking at it with fresh eyes, but have hopefully
Right.
seen it, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yes, we're gonna have to say, yes, it's bad time, but yeah, I mean, try to fit it in somewhere.
Yeah,
But in some ways, perhaps brevity is on our side. And that's how that would be, but okay.
oh, can you forward me your mission statement?
yep, I got it.
Okay.
I'll
Um,
swing by the station and send
Okay,
it to you.
I, let me go back to agenda. Set next meeting date. Heck no. I will not be doing that, but I will declare, if there's no objection, that with our duty. With our, duty fulfilled, that we dissolve the ad hoc committee. At the time of adjournment. Is that understood? We will not be meeting again?
In person, or, I don't know how it works, but.
A contingent on the final approval, contingent on the final approval of the final revision to be sent out. This committee will be dissolved.
Right.
How about that? Thank you for catching that. And with no further agenda and our business is done, I will adjourn this at 6:57.